Oh my goodness. Transformation, light and dark. Talk about polarization. Polarity. Oh my, what number is that, Jane?
31.
Okay, let's hear what he has to say. Transformation, light and dark. So, Jamie's going to put it up there because Metatron is asking us a question. And you need to answer it for yourself honestly, okay? It'll be up in a minute. And this is where the rubber meets the road. So we have to tell the truth to ourselves about what we're feeling and what we're thinking. Because if we don't tell the truth, we can't heal it. It's just taking a second to get the card up. Because you need to look at the card in order to answer the question. Technology is amazing. Oh my goodness. She's beaming it from her phone to the screen. Okay? So with everything going on in your life, what you're looking at in the world, get those feelings, what you've been experiencing, and then, here it comes. Okay. Got it. Okay, ask yourself the question. Okay, first look at the card and ask yourself, which figure on this card do you relate to? Be honest. Not what you want to relate to, but what you kind of can relate to. The dark shadow of your own fear or the empowered light field divine you? Okay. This is a challenging question, since in truth, both are aspects of yourself. Within you are both light and shade, illumination and shadow, love and hate, and peace and anxiety. Oh, thank you for your honesty, Sherry. Yeah, the dark shadow lately. And it's really good to know, because we all want to be that one on the, on my right, reaching up to the light. And we are that in truth, but what am I experiencing lately? Right? The angels are amazing. Listen to this. Living in a dualistic world. We just talked about duality and polarity, good and evil. You could call that good and evil, right? They just chose the perfect card. So living in a dualistic world, you will have a dualistic nature, and it serves you well to try to integrate and understand all parts of yourself. Pushing away your shadow does not work. That's why we're all suffering, because we push down, what we've done in our past that we think is not redeemable. We're not redeemable. We're not lovable. So we push it down, right? Whether it appears as jealousy, rage, greed, or spite. And by the way, is anybody feeling angry, like a surge in anger coming up lately? I've had a lot of people say to me, what is wrong with me? I just feel so angry. Well, for the astrology students, Pluto is in Capricorn, and of course Mars has been transiting there. So we're really feeling a lot of those strong, intense emotions, and the shadow work is becoming more and more important right now. It always is important, but right now the darkness is really coming up because you can feel it, right? You can feel that that rage, or even by the tone of your voice. It can become hard and harsh and coarse and crass, and experiencing both. Yeah, it's crazy. I know it for myself too. I feel some days like I can feel this coming up, and I'm like, whoa. Where's that coming from? It's the purging of the shadow. It all has to go. Everything has to be given up so that the light can fill us. You have to empty the well of sorrow in order to fill the crucible with love. You can't fill a cup that's full of anger, rage, jealousy, hatred, whatever else. Instead, you're asked to understand and to work through why such feelings arise and where they come from, and realize it's usually because of an absence of love. Fear is the absence of love, as darkness is the absence of light. Is it possible to be both? I feel like I'm back. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the conflict. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, in that polarized mind, in the duality, we go boom, 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 boom. And that is why, looking at our beautiful Buddha, we see him sitting in equanimity, silence the thunder of meaningless thoughts. The attack thoughts are no longer there. Because when you don't give meaning to evil, so-called evil that, we look over, let's just use what's going on in Canada, the protests, and we see the SWAT team and the snipers on the roof, and we see pepper spray in people's faces, and we see all of this, and we say that's evil, and the protesters are good, and we're back, and then we say like, oh, the poor police, like what are they going to do? They're afraid if they'll lose their job and they won't have a paycheck, and then we go back to, oh, but what about the poor protesters? They're all standing for peace, and then we're back and forth and back and forth. Yeah, and that's why we suffer. So when we learn to let go of the attack thoughts by turning them over, by giving them forth, but you first have to have awareness of what's in your mind, that the decision maker in your mind has made the choice to latch onto evil thoughts. This is evil. Or the decision maker in your mind has decided to, say this is good. But when you rise above all of it, and you're in perfect isness, and you are honoring the omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence of God, you are in a state of the holy instant. But in the process of that, it's this back and forth. And it's like remembering and forgetting until sooner or later you through awareness, you remember all the time that you are the I am. And you become the silent witness to everything. And even if you're called, to be of service in whatever way whatever form that would take, you do it, but you do it with an even-mindedness. That's how masters are so powerful. They have even-mindedness, anger, sadness, frustration, just dark energy. And that's anger and frustration, exactly. It's really coming up a lot now. And I can't wait to go deeper into our discussion on Tuesday night. But, it's not that the planets are doing it to us. They are just reflective planets, and they are showing us what's really going on inside of us. They're reflecting it, and then we say, well, that's Pluto. But remember, everything is mind. So it's all happening in the mind, but we see the configuration of it in the heavens. So as above, so below. In the macrocosm, so it is in the microcosm. We get to experience it, but we can't blame Pluto. We have to say, oh, Pluto is reflecting where I need to transform. Pluto is transformation, just like this card. And what's interesting in numerology, we have 31, which is a 4. And 4 is Earth. It's the cube. So it's the 4 corners, the 4 directions. It's the red, the yellow, the black, and the white race. It's the 4. So we are transforming matter, the earth plane. It's a high calling, and it's when I feel I'm going to curse, I meow like a cat. That's awesome. I love that. I meow like a cat, then laugh. Oh, Michael, that is so precious. That's really cute. That's a good one. Okay. Whatever it takes, right? Yeah. So we can't push away the shadow, but there's such a strong yearning for the light. That's right. Yeah, and the light, we have to just know, as the Buddha sits as the light and love of God, witnessing and seeing, that this polarity, but sitting in that light. So we claim first, listen, we have to get up every day and say what we are first. That has to be the premise by which we start our day. I am the image and likeness of God. I am created in the mind of God. I am that perfect love light. I have to start my day with that. And if I have to repeat it through the day, that's so good. Because there will be the temptation from the ego to polarize, to get into this drama which is in the mind. Wow. So we're not going to push away the shadow. Our shadow often wants to keep us small. Of course it does, because the shadow is from the ego. It's the specialness of the ego. It's all the concepts that you have of yourself, your beliefs, your ideas about who you are, your individualization. And so it wants you, there's a yearning, like you said, Leichu, for the light. There's a yearning to be famous, to be big. But yet there's this fear because the ego says you're not good enough. So it tries to keep you small. It tries to keep you down. To keep us doing what we know rather than trying something new. We're addicted to the familiar. We don't want to stretch. We don't want to go beyond the fear. Fear is familiar. Love is scary. From panic and low self-esteem to something greater still. If you have done the shadow work, the card then asks you to question which figure you give the most attention to. So which of those figures have you been kind of like, falling into the trap of hanging out with lately? Looks like she is surrendering the darkness to the light. Oh, see, I love that. That's such a beautiful message. So that would be you, right, Lisa? Surrendering your darkness to the light. And what a wonderful channel you are to share that message with all of us. Thanks for the... Yes. These are, let's say they're scary times, but with God, all is possible. With God, everything is possible. Transformation happens when we choose the light over our shadow selves and turn like a flower to the sun. Isn't that so beautiful? That reminds me of when I was a little girl. I was like 5 in kindergarten, and the teacher gave us each a little pot and a little sunflower seed. And I was so excited. And we all planted the seed. And the little sunflower came up about 2-3 inches, and when it was sturdy enough, we were allowed to take our sunflower home. Well, to me, that was like having a pet. I loved cats and animals. I liked all living little things, and my little sunflower plant was no different to me than my furry friends. So I planted my sunflower at the corner of my house. And every day I'd go out there and I'd water it and I'd sit beside it, and I just thought it was so cute, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And honest to goodness, my sunflower grew until it had a stem, I am not kidding, like that. And the flower of my sunflower was so massive. And my sunflower grew up to the ceiling, to the roof of our house. It was a 1-story house, right? Like a ranch style. And it grew up, and people would drive by and stop their cars to look at the sunflower. It was so massive. And I was so fascinated because my sunflower would turn its face to the sun. And I, as a little girl, thought that was so magical, that this big flower would turn to the sun. It would start out in the morning like that, and by the end of the day when the sun came, it turned and looked at the sun. And I never forgot that. And I always used to think as a child that God was the sun. God was the light, the sun, and this beautiful sunflower. And it became so popular, people stopping by, taking photos, that the Belleville Times, I lived up near Ottawa, I was born up there, and the Belleville Times came, the newspaper, and took a picture of me standing beside my sunflower. That stays in my mind, mostly because as a kid, the magic of how that flower could turn fascinated me. So as I read this, it says, like a flower, turn like a flower to the sun. Makes me think about my sunflower, the greatest energy source of our planet and life force. And you know, if you would have asked me as a kid, who's God? I would have said, the sun. I thought God was the sun. The image is a reminder to choose light every day, to move forward and reach for the sunlight rather than hide ourselves in darkness. Darkness and shadow can play into the ego's hands, playing small. Judgment, blame, drama, victim mentality. It takes so many forms. However, we are here to shine brightly. We are God's messengers today. I will be still and listen to the truth. We cannot do so from a place of total darkness. The sunlight in the picture brings not just illumination to the one who is free, but illuminates and brings warmth to the heavier side of ourselves that we all carry. The Holy Mother, the Holy Light, is always with us. She knows. She knows that you're suffering in your darkness. She knows, and she waits patiently. She doesn't believe in your darkness. She knows that you do. But she waits for us to turn like a flower toward her and say, help me now. That is my prayer. I need help. The stronger and more powerful energy is the light. It can and will escape the clutches of anything that tries to contain it. You can't grab a sunbeam. You can't hold on to sunlight. It's everywhere. It's all powerful. It's omniscient, omnipresent. What is left behind is but an empty shell, and we learn to look back with compassion at what blocked our way and the lessons we learned from our struggle. And I think that's so beautiful to look back on your timeline, and you look at all those times in your life where you were suffering, and you were upset with this or disgusted by that, and you continued doing your inner work and forgiving, and now you're here where you're much more awake and much more aware, and you look back with compassion on your life and you say, if that wouldn't have happened, I could not be here where I am more loving and more awake than I was then. Because the first thing the ego would want to tell you is that you are a loser. You loser, how could you have done that? But when you're awake and you are in even-mindedness, you can look back with a smile and say, thank you. Thank you. It all served. By doing this, we transform not just ourselves, but the darkness too. The darkness is dispelled by the light. We learn to live with it, but not allow it to control us. I see you there, and you have no power over me. I am in even-mindedness. I see the good and the so-called evil and the so-called good, and they are meaningless. Both are meaningless. In this oneness, nothing outside of my mind with God is real, and that brings peace. We learn to live with it but not allow it to control us, to love all parts of ourself, and to walk the highest path we can, moment to moment, day by day. And by doing so, we conquer the battle within and allow our light to win. We have risen above the conflict of the mind. We have risen above polarity, duality, and we are in the Buddha field. We are in a field of grace where nothing can touch us. And even though everything is going on with the protest and the protesters and the police, all of it, we simply say to the spirit within us, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And to whom? I am here to serve from a place of equanimity. Thank you, God. And so it is.